Hello everybody, this is Mr. Goth here, and this is going to be a little lesson on computer hardware. So the first thing I'm going to look at here is the general assignment guide that goes with this, and this may change over time, so always pay attention to what was given out in class for this. But this general assignment guide here will go through some of the setup for what we need to do. Obviously in Siberium we are trying to train ourselves to become more enlightened, have more wisdom, and understanding computer hardware is a big part of that, and is a part of your lives as well. So the first thing that we would do is ask some questions, and we probably already did that in class. And that was just to get us thinking and get us curious about the role that computer hardware plays in our life, and some of the different things it can do, and why is it able to do that. Those are great questions to ask, and it's good that we have that discussion, and that really will play into what you need to do for this. Because the end goal here is that you will have a blog post that explains and analyzes the importance of at least 3 different types of or pieces of computer hardware. And if you want to earn the badge, that's going to take an explanation and an analysis of at least 7. So stepping it up a little bit if you want the badge, but for credit, you need to talk about at least 3. So you explain it, you say what it is. The RAM, is random access memory and allows the computer to do multiple tasks. And to analyze, you could say, well, this is really important because if you don't have a lot of RAM, your computer is going to run slow. So that's an example of that. I have some resources here, one of which I'm going to go through for you, or you can Google search your own. And then we're also going to be opening up the computers once about 90% of the class finishes the blogs. Unfortunately, if you aren't finished when we do that, you'll need to work on it that day. So important to get that done before we do that, and I'll try and give you enough heads up. And on this next page is where I'll put some of your questions. These ones will probably be old down here in this video, but this is where I'll try and keep track of the questions that you ask, and maybe just keep a running list of all the questions that were asked, just to show how curious and how different we all think about this. So let's get on into the resources and the reason I'm making this for you. So we talked in class about how I left it open. I wanted you to be curious and investigate some things yourself. But if that's not working for you, you want a little more direct path, that's why I'm going to go through this. So as I said before, I titled this whole thing Respecting the Computer because understanding how a computer works and what it's made of really helps us to treat it better. So the example I give is like your body. If you just assume that you're kind of a hollow tin man of some kind, you're probably not going to treat your body very well. But once you understand that your bones can get brittle if you don't have calcium, or your heart could go bad if you eat a lot of cholesterol and hamburgers and things like that. If you didn't understand those parts of our bodies, we wouldn't take care of it as well, or at least there wouldn't be a lot of reason to, because we wouldn't think that it mattered. So nutrition is really important, all that stuff for our bodies. So that's the point I'm trying to make about hardware, is that it's what makes up pretty much every device that we use. And understanding what it is and how to take care of it and what it does is going to help us respect our equipment a whole lot better. So some of the important components I want to go through today include the power supply, the chassis, the motherboard, CPU, the central processing unit is what that stands for, RAM, the hard drive, optical drives, video cards, and USB. So the power supply, to start with, it brings power to the computer. Pretty self-explanatory. But there's also a couple other things that go with that. Heatsink could be used by the power supply, but mainly there's a heatsink by the processor. And what the heatsink does is it takes the heat away from the motherboard, and that will prevent things from melting. We can all probably agree that melting is bad when it comes to a computer. So if it overheats and something melts, then your computer might be ruined. So that's why the heatsink is really important. And the fan works together with all of these things to blow excess heat out. So the heatsink pulls away, and the fan pulls it out. The chassis is pretty simple. That's the outside body of a computer. You may have even heard about a chassis when you're talking about cars or trucks. That's the body of a car or truck. It's a chassis. The motherboard is like the backbone of the computer. Okay, everything connects to this. This is the circuitry that runs the electrical that makes it all work. So everything is connected. There's spots for ports. There's a whole lot of chips on there and different transistors and things. I'm not going to pretend to understand all of it, but generally it is the backboard that connects everything in your computer. And it's crucial because without it, you really wouldn't be able to have one. Even the smallest little computing devices have some kind of a motherboard type. Right. The CPU is a central processing unit, and is probably one of the most important components because it's really the brain of the computer. And the faster the brain works, the faster your computer will work. And then sometimes some of the better processors have what's called a dual or quad or even higher cores than that, meaning it's like it has more than one brain. We can all agree that that would be pretty sweet. I think I would like that, maybe. I don't know, maybe I'd be even more scattered brain than I am now. I don't know. But that's generally faster if you had dual core or quad core. The computer I'm using right now is a Core i5. It's a dual core, so there's like 2 brains in it. And it's measured in gigahertz, and the higher the gigahertz, the faster it thinks, and the more stuff it can do, and the more power it has to do things on the computer. So that's why smaller things, like a cell phone or a tablet, can't always do the same things that maybe a full-fledged desktop computer can, because they aren't usually built with a powerful CPU. More powerful CPU, it's moving a lot more, there's a lot more heat, and the little devices can't really handle that much heat with the small space they have. Alright. I just quickly want to talk a little bit about storage. Don't want to spend too much time on binary, but basically every computer at the basic is built of zeros and ones. And that's where you lead to measurements of bytes, kilobytes, megabytes, gigabytes, etc. And these are the measurements for that. A byte's 8 bits. A kilobyte is 1024 bytes, and then 1024 is the key number as you go. So in a terabyte, it's 1,048,000 basically megabytes. A song is about 5 to 10. So how many songs could you fit on a terabyte, which is a pretty typical size for like a hard drive nowadays? So think about that. Probably a lot, and that's pretty cheap storage. There recently was being passed around on Twitter, I saw an old ad for a hard drive from the 90s where it was 10 megabytes, so just simply less than 1% of a gigabyte, for almost $4,000. You can buy 1 terabyte for less than $100 now. Crazy how cheap things get over time. RAM, probably the most important component in my opinion. And the reason I say that is because it's really what allows you to multitask. The processor lets you do a lot of powerful things, but especially if it's only single core, it can really only do one thing at a time well. The RAM is what keeps things moving. You may see that I have like 1,000,000 tabs up at a time when I'm on the computer, and it's really taxing on the RAM to have that many tabs open in a browser. So the higher RAM for me is good. Most computers come with 2. That's really not very much these days, and will probably not get you very far. I have 8 in my laptop, and sometimes it's not enough either. So that runs all the programs from the system, from the ground up, to Microsoft Word or Chrome or Solitaire, whatever it may be. And the more RAM you have, the more multitasking you can do. In most computers or laptops, you can add more. There's limits based on certain things, but you can usually always add more. The hard drive is like the heart of the computer. It holds all the programs and everything that runs it. It's where the information is stored. It's where your files go, unless you're using cloud storage, which stores stuff online. So right now, the most common is really a spinning disk. And if you see down here, it almost looks like an old record player if you've ever seen one of those. And that little spindle head, there's little magnets on there that get rearranged, and that's where the data is. New models are called solid state. They work more like a USB drive that you just plug in. But the solid state drives work really fast, and there are no moving parts, so they're expected to have a longer life. Plus, they move quickly. It's nice. Optical drives, those are CD, DVD players, or even floppy disk drives if you want to go way back. A lot of laptops, especially Chromebooks, aren't even coming with these built in anymore. but you can buy them extra and connect them via USB. And that's how you'll play CDs or DVDs. Video cards are really high-end stuff. Most come built in with a video card. Or you can get extra ones if you're really into gaming. They'll cost you, but they can make a big impact. And that impacts the amount of detail you can play with, how fast the games run, or how fast things run in general on your computer. So it can be pretty helpful, but once again, it's probably not worth the price for most of you and what you'll be doing on a computer. But that's something I encourage you to look into more. It's just a pretty advanced thing. And then USB. You probably have used one before. You might even have a flash drive yourself. But those are those little ports, as you can see down here. Those are USB ports. It stands for Universal Serial Bus. And it's really connects to a lot of different things. I mean, you can even charge your cell phone or connect your cell phone to a computer through these. So they're pretty cool. Or makey, or a whole bunch of stuff. USBs are pretty awesome. And they connect most things now. So a lot of computers come with a lot of USBs. And you can also get a USB that connects out and has a lot more USBs, kind of like a surge protector or power strip for plugins. So that's the basic end of this. Briefly before I end, I just wanted to show one more thing. And that's this. This is just a page for a laptop, and I just want to point out some things to you. This right here is the processor that they're talking about. So when you're looking at different processors, compare them, read up on them. A Core i5 is pretty decent, but the speed is fairly low. So you always think about what you're going to be doing with a computer. The 4 gigabytes of memory, that's the RAM right there. That's a decent amount to start with. This 500 gigabytes here, that's the hard drive. That's how much storage there is on the computer. Then this Intel HD graphics, that's the graphics card. It's the video card. It usually comes just built in. You don't have to worry about that. It's not great, but it's okay. And then a couple of things is the operating system it comes with. This is the resolution. We're not really going to get into resolution. But those are some basic things you would look at when you are looking at buying computers. So if your parents ever do, you're going to know a little bit of how to give them advice if they don't know a lot. So that's pretty cool. Alright, well this is just a basic overview. There's so much more out there, and I really don't want to overwhelm you. So when you're writing your blog post, either look at going through some of the ones I've explained myself here in this presentation, or you can investigate some of the questions we came up with. Alright, thanks for watching.